Josh Appel is with us. He filled in for me yesterday. He was at the Amerant Bank Arena with you guys. And as Solana so eloquently said, Appel does indeed live and die by this Panthers team. Solana was watching the game next to him yesterday. Appel's been a diehard Panthers fan for as long as he's been alive. And so I wonder what you do with last night's game, because it was, man, a rough way to lose because you've got a 3-0 lead at home. But this Edmonton team is stacked, and I just wonder where your head's at after last night.
There was a game last night?
You've already put it behind you?
No. You know, it's interesting. I went to sleep last night not feeling great, but like, all right, they lost and we move on. And then I woke up this morning with a pit in my chest and in my stomach thinking about Sam Bennett and the save that Calvin Pickard made with that puck going off the crossbar, and then following that up with the most fluke of all fluky goals that Leon Draisaitl scored. Like, I can live with a loss last night in overtime.
Draisaitl was not trying to shoot that, right?
No,
he was trying to pass that.
Yeah. It was on his backhand, and it was like a one-arm pass to his left to try and get it to Corey Perry, I think, and it deflected off of Niko Mikkola, and because Bobrovsky was sliding from left to right, opened up the wickets a little, slipped underneath him, and they score that goal. If Draisaitl comes down the wing, drives the net, scores a filthy backhand, or goes backhand forehand and roofs it, or snipes Bobrovsky, like, okay, you live with it. But to miss out on the chances that the Panthers did in overtime after controlling play the first, 10, 11 minutes, really, until the Draisaitl goal, yeah, it is certainly demoralizing. And, you know, it's so interesting to me how similar this game went to Game 2 in Edmonton, starting with the home team tying the game, less than 20 seconds left, going to overtime, the tie at 4. Then the Panthers have that opportunity for Marchand where the puck goes through the crease, off the post, stays out. Last night, Edmonton in overtime has a puck go under Bobrovsky, slide through the crease, off the post, and the follow-up somehow Gustav Forsling is able to keep it out of the net. And then they score on a little fluky goal that's not really the best of touches. Like, Marchand made a nice play, but probably Stuart Skinner probably wants that one back. In fact, if you go back and listen to every single call of that Marchand winner in Game 2, everybody there thought it was stopped initially by Stuart Skinner. And then you see the fluky goal that Edmonton scored last night to win the game. It is pretty demoralizing. One of the things we talked about yesterday was in the previous 5 games in the Stanley Cup final, the last 2 years at 5-on-5, the Oilers had scored only 2 goals. Last night, they scored 4 at 5-on-5.
I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because you were preaching for a couple days and maybe a couple weeks. The Panthers are the best 5-on-5 team. So when we had 5-on-5, I was like, okay, we're set. They got more shots on goal. They had more attempts in overtime, all of that. Like you're saying, was it fluky? Do you still feel that way? Because when Edmonton was in our zone, they were going at it.
But, like, to me, I'm looking at that second period, like, it was roles reversed. The Panthers were dominant in that first period. They chased Mr. Game 4, big bad Mr. Game 4, Stuart Skinner, out of the game, who technically I think does get credit.
Does he get credit for the win? Because he started the game.
Undefeated still in Game 4s. I would just like to point out.
He gets credit for it?
Yes.
It's who starts the game, not who ends the game.
I think Pickard might technically get the win, but Stuart Skinner can say he started another Game 4 that they ended up winning. It's so hard to believe that the team that came out in the first period for both sides is what they looked like in the second period. It was a complete role reversal down to the 3 power plays that the Panthers gifted Edmonton in that period. I don't think anybody envisioned the way that the Panthers took it to them in the first, that anything like that was going to happen following it. And, you know, the first goal that Edmonton scored, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, great shot. The second goal, Darnell Nurse, an impossible angle, great shot, but probably one that Bobrovsky needs to stop. And the third one is a rebound that's just sitting out in front that nobody clears out, and Podkolzin scores. and ties the game at 3. And then after Alexander Barkov and Sam Reinhart in that line are out there for what felt like an hour, they can't get the puck out of the defensive zone. Like, how many times have you seen Alexander Barkov have a puck at his skate, a puck on his stick, and turn it over in his own defensive zone? It never happens. And it led to the go-ahead goal in the third period. Thankfully, Sam Reinhart and the Panthers were able to push and get the game tied. And, I don't think that this is a demoralizing loss if the teams go back and forth and they get to 4-4 at the end and you lose on a fluky play in overtime. Unfortunately, sometimes that's just hockey. But to be up 3-0, to lose that lead, a team, by the way, that for the first time under Paul Maurice in the postseason, lost after leading after any period in game 1 of the series, now becomes the first team in, I think, 38 games in the Stanley Cup to have a 3-goal lead after the first period and lose. And so I can't even come on here and do the, it's hockey and that stuff happens. It literally never happens. I will say the Oilers have made a run this postseason in large part because they're capable of big comebacks like this. In fact, we saw it last year in Game 3 in Edmonton where they almost stormed all the way back. The Panthers were able to hold on in the end. I have a million thoughts running through my head. I don't know if you can tell as it relates to this. I've apologized 17 times to Solana because I thought I might have broken his hand celebrating. I had to subdue my emotions when Reinhart
You're in the
tied
press
game.
box.
Yeah, of course. I'm a professional, but Solana, I guess, reached for his phone and I grabbed his other hand and I shook it and I was clapping on top of his head. It was a lot, but the Panthers have shown time and time again that they are capable of moving on from a game like that. I mean, we saw it last year in the Cup final. I mean, what better show of mental fortitude than nearly having the greatest collapse in the history of a championship series in sports and then winning 2-1 in Game 7. I think this team is more than capable of bouncing back. And I think, and I would imagine that WQAM equivalent in Edmonton was having a very similar conversation after blowing Game 2 or not winning in Game 2 and then getting the doors blown off of them in Game 3. They were probably saying, oh, this is over. What do you think they were saying after the first period yesterday? This series has swung back and forth for 2 years now. And yeah, does it suck that the Panthers lost? Yes. But they're on a bird, or they landed in Edmonton. They'll get their Dairy Queen Blizzards today, and they'll go out and play a hockey game tomorrow. And that's, I think, the best thing possible is not have to dwell on it.
It is pretty crazy that Dairy Queen could end up saving this Florida Panthers season. It's a wild statement, but I wholeheartedly believe it. Appel, I'm not necessarily trying to blame any particular player. And I know, look, I've gotten burned with the Marchand stupid take, and I pretty much said that the series was over yesterday, and then, the Panthers lost the game. I realize I don't have a great track record here, but they're down 3-0 yesterday, Edmonton. I'm sure everybody, the equivalent of WQAM in Edmonton, saying, hey, Draisaitl has to step it up. Hey, the best player on the ice, Connor McDavid, has to step it up. Nugent Hopkins has to step it up. I realize that Barkov, Reinhart, our first line, has their hands full covering or having to play against that duo. I get that. But is it not fair at this point? You have a 3-0 lead. You blow the 3-0 lead to look to your best players and say, hey, this is on you now to close out this game, to make sure that you don't blow the 3-0 lead. At what point do we stop saying, well, they have their hands full, and expect Barkov to play at the level that Barkov should play, not to give up a silly turnover no matter how long he's been on the ice? And for Reinhart, I know he scored now in 2 straight games, and it was a pretty important goal, but we can all agree, they're not playing their best hockey right now.
That's still tough for me to evaluate whether or not that is or isn't their best, especially coming off of a night where Barkov had multiple points, Reinhart had a goal and 2 assists, and obviously the one at the end tied it. Matthew Tkachuk finally had these back-to-back games that I think are the best that Tkachuk has looked all postseason long. So I think they are getting they're scoring 4 or 5 goals in every single one of these games. They're not hurting for them offensively, right? And so when other guys are able to pick up that slack, you want Barkov and Reinhart to at least excel defensively. And they did that in Game 3. Last night, there are unfortunately a couple of glaring moments where that didn't happen. And look, we don't need to come out here and have this like hot take about them needing to play better, right? Like we didn't have to do that after Thomas Nosek put the puck over the boards in game 1 in overtime, right? Like these guys know they have to play better. And I realize that everything is put under a microscope when it gets to this point in the playoffs. They're in the Stanley Cup final for the 3rd consecutive year, trying to go back-to-back against the best player in the world. I get all that. It's just hard for me to be down on them after they actually finally produced the way we expect them to offensively last night, and unfortunately had a really bad giveaway that led to a go-ahead goal that they got back, right? Like you don't know what happens if maybe they still go to overtime 3-3, right? If Jake Wallman doesn't score with 5.5, 6 minutes left. So who knows what happens. It's good to see they were able to bounce back after that. But I will say this. I know he came in yesterday and he played well for Edmonton after Chris Knobloch took Mr. Game 4 out of the game. But I'm telling you right now, 3 games left, and I've got Calvin Pickard standing in the way of the Panthers winning back-to-back cups at a best of 3. I will take that every single day of the week. I know he's 7-0 in the postseason now, which means he's due, and they do tend to play a little bit better in front of him. He was good last night, made some big saves, but there were a lot of opportunities that the Panthers normally cash in on. Rebounds were all over the place, out for the taking. He flails and overcommits all over the place. I dare Calvin Pickard to win 2 more games in this series. I dare him.
Josh, you know what I noticed because I was mad last night, but I don't know. I was watching it on TV, watching every second. Calvin and Leon Draisaitl, those are black first names. So I don't know what these Canadians got going, but maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe we should get some more Raheems on our team. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. No, but I'm joking around.
I was gonna say I'm not sure that's my department to evaluate.
But no.
I rented a Draisaitl on the beach while I was here on the Jersey Shore.
What's his name?
Draisaitl.
I just saw his first name is Leon. I said Leon.
Calvin, though, is Calvin a black name?
Calvin's a black name, huh? Calvin,
President Calvin Coolidge.
One. But Josh, something we talked about, something that they ended game 3 with when they were trying to play in the mud, trying to play Paul ball and all the nasty and the forechecking. And in the first period, they seemed like they came out and wanted to prove a point and get physical. And then when they started playing the speed hockey, like Hawk, yesterday Bill Lindsay was talking about it, they're a speed team. When they started playing their style of hockey, they came back from 3-0 and started doing that. Just between me and you, I hope nobody's listening from Edmonton. Do we need to drag them into the mud? Because I don't know if we should run with them like we tried to run with them in the 3rd period and overtime.
Maybe, but part of me also feels like the 1st and 2nd period were aberrations. You know, like I feel like what we saw in the 3rd period, what we saw in overtime, what we saw in the previous games of the series outside of game 3, games 1 and 2, are closer to what we should expect from these teams. It's such a cool contrast of styles, right? With the speed and the forechecking of the Panthers. I don't know if you really want to panic because of last night and get away from what you do and trying to change things just because you had, albeit a very unfortunate blown game, 2nd time in this series by the Panthers. So I think you just got to stick to what you do. If Edmonton wants to try and drag you back in there, great, be happy to, but you got to stick to your game and not really worry about and try and have Edmonton dictate how you maybe want to change things or anything like that. Because it's not like yesterday they weren't throwing big hits. There were big hits on both sides, right? Like Carter Verhaeghe on the 3rd goal for Anton Lundell on the forecheck comes over and hits Troy Stetcher into the boards, maybe gone away with a high stick, and then finds Anton Lundell in the slot for the goal. Carter Verhaeghe also got away probably with a boarding call later in the game that wasn't called. So I think the physicality is still there, and I think all of that is still there. It's just Edmonton, as Paul Maurice and everybody else expected, everybody that we talked to on the show yesterday expected, they came out and there wasn't a lot of those extracurriculars for them, except Evander Kane, another night where he takes a million penalties and he whines about it.
Josh Appel has received a text on the text line that is so perfect. Damn, this big-ass nerd knows his puck.
I love that guy.
Give this dude another segment. Preach it, nerd. Might have to add a fourth name to the show. He's crushing it.
Thank
Josh
you.
is a nerd.
Big ass nerd.
Come on.
Is this the best era?
I've never seen a 6'4" nerd though. I don't know if that's just me.
Now you have.
Oh, okay.
Is this the best era of Panthers shenanigans? Because you had the year of the rat, you had Kevin Spacey, and you have now Taylor Swift and Dairy Queen. Kevin Spacey's been exonerated, so you can break out the hoodies. He's been exonerated.
I'll let you break out your hoodie first.
Break out the hoodies. I'm just saying, is this the best cutesy era with Dairy Queen and firing off rats at Brad Marchand and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce in the crowd? Or is it still the year of the rat? Or, long shot here, is it the Kevin Spacey era?
I actually think it's the Party City Tarp era is the best when they were tarping it off in the upper deck. No, and then you got Will Manso suggesting they put Jonah Gadjevic's tongue face on a T-shirt, and of course yesterday they start selling the T-shirts. You've got the Dairy Queen stuff. Yeah, I mean this is the best era of anything Panthers related ever, and I'm not sure it's possible for it to be top because they've reached the top already. It was cool. It was cool in '96. Obviously, like it captured the city. The Rats were amazing, but that
they're still doing the Rats till today,
right? They are, and they've evolved a bit because now they just fire at them at our resident rat, Brad Marchand, after wins. How awesome is it? I was surprised, by the way, that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were in a suite, but on the club level and not in the suite level, because in the club level, I know they were able to come up the backside with the elevator and they had big security, but like. You got to walk around the normies in the club level to get to those suites. Suite level, a little more private. I'm surprised they were up on that level. But
I'm pretty sure that was the Odyssey suite.
I said that to Solana. It was right by there.
I am pretty sure that was the Odyssey suite. No one cleaned that suite till next season. I got to do some investigation.
What are you going to do? Look for Taylor Swift's hair?
I can't tell you.
Inexplicably, I think Mark Williams and Tim Hardaway Jr. were also at the game last night. Random NBA.
Huh. They were.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Yeah, I saw
Josh Appel. We love you, you big ass nerd.
I love you guys. Small ass nerds, except for Crowder. Not a nerd. I would never call him.
I'm just a small ass guy. I don't think I'm a nerd.
No, but you look comfortable on that throne in your Airbnb. I'll tell you that.
I have never been more comfortable. This is where I want to do the show from now on. I'm flying here just to do Tuesday's show, so I don't have to go to the arena.
He is on a throne, isn't he? That's ridiculous.
See ya, pal.
Bye, guys.